Hey, welcome back to the podcast. I enjoyed last week's episode so much, all on estrogen dominance, and you guys did too. If for some reason you missed that episode, go back, take a listen. It was a really good one. This week, we are going to be talking about progesterone and specifically having too little of progesterone. So, first up, I want to talk about why we need progesterone and kind of what its job is, what it's responsible for. And I touched on this maybe just a little bit last week, so this might be a repeat for you. But progesterone is really needed to help stabilize the endometrium for conception. We have to have enough progesterone in order to sustain a healthy pregnancy once a fertilized egg implants. However, it has some other jobs as well that are really important. Progesterone also supports sleep, mood, your memory, and it helps also, along with estrogen, we touched on this last week, it helps support that healthy bone mineral density. So, our progesterone as cycling women is primarily made in the ovaries during your luteal phase. If you're like, hang on, Banda, I don't remember or I don't know what my luteal phase is, you're going to want to go back to episode 46, where I did a breakdown of all of the different phases of the menstrual cycle and high overview of like what happens to your hormones at each cycle, because I want to really stay focused on just the progesterone during this episode. But like I said, primarily made in your ovaries during the luteal phase. Now, next I want to talk through like what are some signs and symptoms of having low progesterone. So we've got fatigue, insomnia, irritability, anxiety, weight gain or inability to lose weight, infertility that can be primary or secondary infertility. And also, I wanted to throw this in there as well because I think this is really important to know because it gives you kind of another reason, along with correcting the symptoms, but it gives you a reason to want to know if you have this low progesterone and a reason to fix it. If you kind of chronically have low progesterone, it increases your risk of developing endometrial cancer down the road. And that's, I think everybody listening here is probably pretty health conscious and health forward and would like to prevent something like cancer from happening. So, how is it that, we get in this state of having low progesterone to begin with? Lots of different reasons that this can happen, of course. And we really, when we're trying to work on this and identify, like, is this low progesterone? And then how do I fix it? What do I need to do about it? We've really got to get down to, as always, the root cause of why it's showing up. So some of the reasons that we would look into and we would touch on, first of all, is kind of a category all in itself, would be anovulation, which means that you're not ovulating. And the reason that I say this is kind of a category all in itself, like that's a big problem. If you're not ovulating and you're not on any type of like hormonal birth control or have an IUD or something that is intentionally preventing you from ovulating, if you're not on any of that, you're having natural cycles and you're just not ovulating, we absolutely want to figure out why and or if you are heading towards perimenopause and menopause. So, in a younger person that is not at that stage yet or shouldn't be at that stage yet of perimenopause or menopause, some of the things that can cause us to stop ovulating would be anorexia or low body weight, and over exercising. And I know that I have touched on those things in the past, but I just, again, wanted to kind of bring that to the forefront and call that out because, again, if you're not ovulating, you're not going to make enough progesterone. Now, other reasons that we can be making progesterone, but it's just not enough, where we have a low amount. Stress, definitely going to impact you. Breastfeeding, currently in that stage myself. You are entering perimenopause. Maybe you have PCOS, you've got some thyroid disorder or dysfunction going on, or you have a high prolactin level for some reason. So, of course, those are things that, we could kind of dig in and work up a little bit with some additional lab work. Like if we don't exactly know what the cause is, it's kind of like everybody has some stress that they can work on, right? But do we need to get a really thorough thyroid panel to see how your thyroid is functioning? And then we'll take that a step further with HTMA testing because maybe your thyroid is functioning fine, but because of your mineral status, your thyroid hormone isn't able to get inside the cell. If it can't get inside the cells, then it can't do its job. So I touched on this last week in our estrogen dominance episode, and I wanted to, touch on it again. I take this from a three-step approach. Of course, testing is going to be involved, absolutely. But then as we wait for testing results to come back, we're going to go ahead and be working on the foundations. And then even when I get your test results back, we're going to build off of the foundations that we have already put into place. And we're going to do it in a way that doesn't overwhelm your system. Because if I'm recommending you supplements, there's likely going to be more than one or two supplements I'm recommending. And I don't want you to start on like 5 new things all today, because then we're not really going to know like what's helping, what's not helping, or if you're reacting negatively to a supplement, we may not know that or we may not know which one it is that's causing it. Then we kind of got to go back to square one. I don't want to have to like start and stop and start over. So I do this in a phased approach. So first and foremost, we're going to focus on your nutrition. I'm not the type of hormone coach that's going to tell you that you have to eat perfectly, that there's no leeway, you've got to cut things out, I'm not about that, okay? But what I want you to know when it comes to nutrition is how important it is to be getting protein, healthy fats, fiber at every meal so that you're fueling your body with enough. We also want to make sure in general you're getting enough calories. But then I also want you to focus on that because it's going to support your blood sugar balance. And that is very important for your body to not be in a state of stress all the time. If our blood sugar is on a roller coaster, that is actually a form of stress on our body. And then, of course, part of that nutrition piece is also going to be, are we eating foods that are rich in vitamins and minerals? If you're hitting your needed amount of calories every day by eating junk, then yes, you're getting enough calories, but you're not getting enough nutrients. So although, again, I'm not the type of person that says you can't have ice cream, you can't go out to eat, you can't eat fast food. We definitely want to have a balance there of when and how much we're eating of, fresh fruits and produce versus the splurge on eating out. Then once we kind of work through that step, the next thing that we're going to tackle is stress and your nervous system. These go hand in hand. I'm not the type of person that's going to tell you, you just need to stress less. That is not helpful. I'm going to teach you tools for how you can manage your stress, how you can regulate your nervous system in the moment when, you are kind of having a meltdown, crap's hitting the fan with your kids or at work or whatever, and you feel yourself like getting amped up and you're dysregulated and you're like, I need to chill out because this is actually not a life or death situation. And then the third step is going to be detox. And the reason that is the third step is because we need to get your body in a place that it is ready to detox. Some coaches throw their clients into a detox focused protocol right from the beginning. And that often leads to them feeling like absolute crap before they feel any better. There's a lot of side effects. There's just a lot of new symptoms that crop up or symptoms that were already happening, but it's exacerbating them and they're getting worse. And I don't think that is the appropriate approach. And I've definitely seen in the clients that I work with and some of even my clients that have worked with a practitioner in the past that that's been their approach. And they're like, wow, this has been so much better to tackle these foundations first and then try to detox instead of doing it the opposite way. Or, you can get online and purchase detox protocols and supplements yourself without any guidance. And there's a lot of people that do that because the marketing around everybody needs to detox, everybody's got parasites, everybody has heavy metals. Like the marketing is definitely there to support that and make you think that you need to do these things. And I'm not saying that you don't. Most of my clients that I work with, I haven't worked really with a client yet that hasn't needed some support to help their body with detox. But that doesn't always mean that we need a full-fledged detox or parasite protocol, and we absolutely don't need it immediately right out of the gate. Okay, so to just kind of wrap that up nicely for you, when we have low progesterone, the way that we're going to fix it is by figuring out the root cause. We're going to work on some stress management, and we're also going to work on antioxidant support, which comes from, are we getting enough vitamins, minerals? What fresh foods are we eating? What foods maybe do we already know that we like that are rich in antioxidants that we can incorporate more on a daily basis? So, another thing that I wanted to mention and tie us back to the last episode on estrogen dominance is that a lot of these symptoms sound very similar to what we talked about last week. And that's because estrogen dominance and low progesterone, not always, but oftentimes go hand in hand. And that's because, and we talked about this, again, we talked about last week, but that's because of the ratio between your estrogen levels and your progesterone. And if you want to hear all of that explanation again and hear me break down the different types of estrogen dominance, then just go back to the last episode and listen through that. Now, just like I did last week, I opened up the opportunity to ask questions for me to answer on this episode. And I've picked 5 of them again. I felt like the 5 questions last week, I felt like that worked out really good. I offered this opportunity up to my Instagram followers, my email list, and I got some really great questions. And so just to know that you guys are always welcome, even if I'm not putting the formal ask out there. If you have a question or something that you are just wondering about, you're like, I would really like to hear Vanda's opinion on this. I would really like to know what Vanda's input on this would be. Feel free to reply to any of my emails if you get them. If you don't get them, you should plug there. But reply to any of my emails and let me know what that question is, and I will try to tackle it for you in an upcoming episode. And you also might just get oftentimes a direct reply from me answering your question right away. And then later on, I might again tackle it as an episode or a piece of content on Instagram. Okay, so first question. Could low progesterone be why I feel like a different person the week before my period? Short answer, yes. There could be other reasons for this as well. And to be honest with you, we can see this happen with low or high progesterone. And we're not touching on high progesterone in this episode. I mean, because it's not as common, and I may decide to tackle that in an episode all of its own. So I really just wanted to focus for this episode specifically on low progesterone. Now, what I will say about this is, and the reason that progesterone affects us so much in this way is that progesterone stimulates the GABA receptor in the brain that helps us feel calm and relaxed and chilled out. So if we don't have enough progesterone, then that process can't happen, or it's not happening enough. So that's why When you're at the point right before you start your period, that is when our progesterone is naturally supposed to be at its highest point because it's preparing our body for that pregnancy. And again, if you want to hear a deeper explanation of that, go back and listen to episode 46. But that's just the basics there. If if we don't have enough progesterone when we hit that point in our cycle, then our body recognizes it. And we are going to see some of these more like mental and emotional type symptoms come up. And I assume that's what this person meant when they said, I feel like a different person the week before my period. Okay, second question. My period is regular, but could I still have low progesterone? Absolutely, yes. This is definitely a case where I would need to ask some more questions. Like I would probably want to know, are you tracking your basal body temperature? Are you seeing the rise in your temperature that you should that indicates you ovulated? Have you had any blood workup done on your hormone levels? And if so, at what point in your cycle were you at when you had those levels drawn? Um, I would also want this person to define regular for me. Like, what is regular for them? How many days is it between their cycle? The reason that you can still be regular and still have low progesterone is because you can have a period without ovulating. And as I mentioned before, our ovaries and kind of that process of ovulation and then the luteal phase is when the progesterone is produced the most. So if ovulation isn't happening, you absolutely can have low progesterone. And then I'll just go ahead and plug this too. And I'm kind of going to touch this in another question that was asked, but you can also be ovulating and still be low in progesterone because your body's just like not making enough. And okay, so that's kind of going to come into play with this next question. So, question number 3. Is it true you can't get pregnant if your progesterone is too low? Short answer, yes. Longer answer is that unfortunately, oftentimes you can get pregnant, but then you can't sustain the pregnancy. So, this is oftentimes if people are having miscarriages, especially early on miscarriages, it's linked to low progesterone. And I don't want you to hear that and be like super freaked out or scared by it. It's absolutely something you want to be aware of. Definitely. And if you're someone that has had a miscarriage, I want you to go to your doctor and insist that they check your progesterone levels. I don't want them to come back at you with the answer of like, well, sometimes miscarriages just happen. That's true. But like, why would we not seek out that piece of information and prevent another possible miscarriage from happening when we have the technology at our fingertips? It's a blood draw. Like it's super simple to just check in and see, you know? If you're getting pushback from your provider on that, then I would absolutely ask them, okay, I want you to document that I'm requesting this test and you're refusing to do it for me. 9 times out of 10, they're going to be like, you know what, fine. You want the test, I'll order the test because they don't want to put that in your medical record. Not going to get down that rabbit hole today. That will also probably be a podcast episode all of its own sometime in the future. If you suspect that your progesterone level is low and you are coming up on a time when you want to get pregnant, I encourage you highly to really dig in and get your foundations in place first, get some testing done, and go into your stage of trying to conceive confident that low progesterone is not going to be your issue. Now, if you know that you have low progesterone and you've already been working on it and you're like, well, my levels are still low and I'm like doing all of the things, that is definitely a conversation that you and your provider are going to be having and need to be having because you can take oral, it's synthetic, but you can take oral progesterone when you become pregnant up until a certain point in your pregnancy to help sustain that pregnancy. That's something that years and years and years ago, my mom had to do when she got pregnant with my brother. I'm not going to get into that whole story today, but, it was the thing that allowed my mom to have another child. And she's not the only one. Like, there's many women that have to do that. Okay, question number 4. My doctor ran labs, but still said everything looks fine. But why do I feel exhausted, emotional, and bloated all of the time? So if you guys have been a listener to this podcast for a while, you know that there are so many things that can be causing you to feel like crap. Essentially, I'm not going to go through the whole list of symptoms again. We're just going to call it like you feel like crap. We'll just call it what it is. If this is you, the first thing that I would say is with lab work, normal does not mean optimal. Normal lab results mean that you're not in a state of disease yet. But unfortunately, the lab ranges are not helping you seek out optimal health where you would really feel your absolute best. So especially if you look over your lab work and you're looking at different levels, and this is just kind of some very general high overview things. If you're looking at your levels and you're like right on the edge of being high or low, you're not in an optimal range. Where you want to be, and obviously with every lab, there is a specific optimal range, but I can't give all of that to you in this podcast episode. But it's just to high level talk about this. You want to be right in the middle of what they are considering to be the normal range. I would encourage you to do one of two things. Number 1, connect yourself with a provider like myself that can take the lab work you had done with your provider, look at the results, and compare them to optimal ranges, and have that person, like myself, explain to you which ones are outside the optimal range and what it means to be outside of the optimal range and how you can fix it, how you can correct it. That's option number 1. Option number 2 would be to work with me and get HTMA testing, possibly Dutch testing, depending on your situation, depending on what labs it is we're talking about, what the overall concern is here. But get the functional testing so that we can look deeper into what the issue is. Because I promise you, there is a reason that you're having these symptoms. Guys, we were not meant to live here on earth feeling like crap. Okay. Our bodies aren't designed that way. Our bodies are designed in a way that want us to feel good, want us to be safe, want us to be in a regulated state. But it has to have all of the tools, like all of the minerals, all of the hormones, all the nutrition. Our body has to have that in order for us to function optimally. We're also so disconnected, just as like a society right now. We're so disconnected with our bodies and tuning into like, what is my body trying to tell me with this symptom? You can learn so much from your own body if you just tune in and start noticing more things about your body. We're also so disconnected from the earth. Like, I don't want to get down a too like woo-woo rabbit hole right now, but we are spending so much time inside with artificial light, looking at artificial screens, sitting on our butt, literally, not moving, eating crappy food, being stressed out all the time, being stimulated all the time. Like, we are living in a state, in an age and a state where we're being hit with more information than people ever have been in the past before. We have so many things coming at us. We have so many demands on us, so many expectations. We have like societal pressures. We feel like because of social media, we need to live these like luxurious, picture perfect lives. Our houses need to look pretty all the time. all of this stuff. And really, you know what? We would all be better off if we stopped paying as much attention to all of that noise and we just spent more time outside. We spent more time in person with our family, with our friends, actually connecting with human beings, touching the grass, growing a garden. I'm not somebody that's like, my husband is a technology freak. Okay. He works in IT. He loves technology. I love technology. I love social media. Well, I don't know. That might be a stretch. I enjoy social media because I enjoy keeping up with people. But do you know what? And I'm doing air quotes here, I enjoy that to connect with people, but it's because I'm not connecting with them in any other way. If we didn't have social media anymore, do you know how much more often we would get together with our friends and our families? And we'd get like our friends and their kids together and we would just like be together in person because we wouldn't know. We couldn't keep up with them. We wouldn't know what's going on in their life unless we said, hey, you know what? I miss you guys. Why don't y'all come over for dinner? There's not enough of that going on. And I know I've fallen down a rabbit hole here. I'm like on a total soapbox about this because of something I read last night, but it's because this impacts the way we feel so much. And we don't like get it enough credit. We don't give enough credit to just going outside, removing ourselves from the TV, getting up and going for a walk. It's really the basics that make a big impact on us in the way that we feel. And instead of focusing on that, sometimes we are looking for a magic pill or a magic shot. Okay. Let me just read through this again and make sure I even answered this question since I fell off in my rabbit hole there. My doctor ran labs but said everything looks fine. Why do I still feel exhausted, emotional, bloated all the time? Yeah. So I think I did cover that. Short answer is that they're looking at normal ranges, not optimal ranges, and you need to dig in with somebody else and either get that lab work compared to optimal ranges and do some education with you on what the labs actually mean. Because telling you, like, everything looks good is lazy. Okay, last question. Gonna try to not get on a rabbit hole again here. Question number 5. Can I fix low progesterone naturally, or do I have to take hormone therapy? There's a lot to this question. It's really going to depend on why is your progesterone low in the first place? What age are you? Where are you at with your cycles? There's going to be some times that hormone therapy is needed. However, there's going to be other situations where, yeah, absolutely, we can fix this naturally and get you back in a place where you are effectively and efficiently producing estrogen and progesterone. All right, that wraps us up for this episode. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope that you're enjoying these deep dive episodes. I have more of them planned. I'm very excited about them. I have really enjoyed going back and like digging into the research on the specifics of all of this stuff again so that I make sure I'm not leaving anything out for you. I also love the questions that I'm getting. So please keep those coming. If this is your first episode, please take the time to subscribe to the podcast if you found value here so that you don't miss an episode when I publish more in the future. Typically, I put out an episode every week. Also, if you're new here, or maybe if you're not and you haven't snagged them up yet, there are resources linked for you in my show notes. I have a Hormones 101 podcast where I go into these topics a little deeper and a little, I like share some case studies from myself, from clients that I've worked with. If you're kind of just getting started and you're really trying to work on your hormone balance so that your period is not running your life all of the time, that is a great place to get started. I absolutely recommend downloading that. So I will leave you guys there. Hope you have a great week. Love you. Bye.